Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and death of Naima Liggon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, but anyway, some of you may have heard this was a 16-year-old girl that had been stabbed to death. There was an altercation at a McDonald's in Washington, D.C. Took place on August 27th, just a few days ago at about 2 a.m. And there was, altercation over something that was very trivial, over some kind of sauce for the food, and it just, it's so hard to see, understand where this world is coming to. Somebody is dead over this, and the thing is, the person that got stabbed, Tama Liggon, she had gone outside, I believe, and the person she was in the altercation with ran after her. Dispute looked like it had ended, and she had ran after her and stabbed her in the chest and abdomen. And the thing I want to get to first is that my heart, prayers and condolences go out to close friends and family member of this young lady. Um, it's terrible because we're supposed to be loving each other in this world, not, killing each other. We have so much going on, with the mass shootings as it is. And, I can understand, and I hate to say this regarding my own country, but I'm, going to be brutally frank. I could see why, if there's people that are hesitant and reluctant to come to the United States, I could see why it is. And, I don't know if I even feel 100. I don't really feel 100% safe in my own, country and city and what have you. And the thing I'm going to get to talk about, the chart, the event chart at this time, and of this event, I would say I don't have any birth data or details on the victim. The only thing I did was I did a chart for the event, for the stabbing and death of this young lady. And it was, again, it's about 2 a.m. on August 27, 2023. It took place in Washington, D.C. And the thing is, on this chart, as far as this event chart goes, okay, we got the sun in critical, judgmental, in particular Virgo. The moon is in cold, callous, undemonstrative Capricorn, and you have the ascendant at Cancer, which is like a face of the event. And of course, there's a lot of emotions going on. It could be very irrational behavior. People reacting strongly to being overly sensitive to criticism and ridicule, even tremendous insecurity. Another thing, but really, well, something that stands out to me is that there's no planets in air in this chart, and there's also Gemini falls on the cusp of the 12th house of limitations and restrictions. So we could say, from that, communication was not going to be there, and it was maybe just a little harder for people to articulate, and discuss things rationally on matters at this point in time. The positive thing, though, is that Mercury, though it's in retrograde, it's in Virgo, and it did trine Jupiter, so I'm sure this was communicated to the law, fairly easy with little, delay or, any kind of, restriction or anything that would have inhibited this. There was really not much. I'm sure the communication went, to the law very easily on this matter. Now, the thing that really, I find, compelling in this chart is that the fourth house in this, because the fourth house, like all houses, can mean, manifold things. It's the end of life, it's safety, security, it's food. It's also corresponds anatomically with the chest and breast. And again, this girl was stabbed in the abdomen and the chest area. Now, The thing is, Virgo falls on the fourth house cusp of the end of life in this chart, and this was a lot of, I'm sure, a lot of criticism, derisive remarks were, surrounding, this moment, at the end of life for this young lady, and also too. The thing about this is Mars is in this house, and Mars is at the 29th degree, which is an anaretic degree. It could be a degree of endings as well. And this was an ending, sadly, due to something violent, a stabbing. Mars is connected, of course, with violence, volatility, sharp instruments, and stabbings. And this was a thing which occurred, and the stabbing sadly was done likely with certain precision, being in Virgo, and the fourth house is it does is corresponds anatomically with the chest and the breast, and the young lady was stabbed there, and Virgo has a connection to the abdomen as well, and that's also where she was stabbed. I believe she was stabbed in two places: the chest and the abdomen. And Mercury making the conjunction to Mars in this house shows that the that's an indicator by itself of acrimonious disputes, in the fourth house being over food, and worrying about something that wasn't really of any significance. All that had to be done in this instance was for somebody to just go, I would say, go up to the counter and get another sauce, because if it was an argument over some sauce, say if it was barbecue sauce or sweet and sour, whatever it was, is that, I mean, they're free, I believe, to eat those sauces. So somebody could have just gone up and been a better person and just say, hey, look, this is what I just want to get another one, please. And that could have been, resolved, very, amicably, very peacefully. I'm wondering if that South Node in Libra is an indicator of people sadly maybe going away from certain negotiation, cooperation, reconciliation in matters. And another thing, in the ruler of the fourth house, which is Mercury, because Virgo falls on the fourth house cusp, the ruler of it, Mercury, falls in the fourth house. Again, the end of life, an end of someone's life being connected with something, with food, and also the fourth house is emotions as well, and it made this more emotional. Now, another thing that I wanted to, point out as well is that, the moon in Capricorn, being in its detriment at this time, is opposing the Cancer ascendant at the event, chart. And I do have, 2 a.m. as the approximate time for this. So what makes this, but it's not only that the moon is in its detriment in cold, callous, and, sometimes undemonstrative Capricorn. A lot of emotions are restricted with this placement, but opposing the ascendant makes it difficult to, express those feelings outwardly. They come out in negative fashion as far as the emotions go. Now, another thing too, what I noticed is this: that the ruler of the 12th house, Gemini falls in the 12th house cusp in this chart. The ruler of it, Mercury, falls in the 4th house. The 12th house governs hospitals. 4th house is the end of life. Sadly, this girl did die in a hospital. Another thing is that when I look at the 8th house cusp, is Capricorn, and I'm using, of course, Placidus house system, and the ruler of that house cusp, Saturn, falls in the 9th house, which is global communications. So this was something that was going, was pretty much, I would say, meant to hit, things on a real global level. This might even take more, get some, greater notoriety and recognition as time, progresses. And the thing, another thing I would say as well, anything else that may stand out in this chart as far as aspects go. Well, you have in this event chart that you have I call a loose and conjunct aspect, with Mars 29 degrees Virgo, Saturn 3 degrees Pisces. In conjunction astrology can often be about adjustments. It could indicate too much or too little of something. So a lot of that, when you have, the Saturn and Mars in an inconjunct aspect, it could indicate, in this case, I think it may have manifested in not having nearly enough discipline over actions, volatile actions, too little discipline and restriction in that. And it's interesting because Saturn is in Pisces. Saturn is also about a responsibility. Pisces is connected with, incarceration, imprisonment. Now, the thing about this is I just want to look at this because I want to see if I got any other aspects I want to get at on here, so I don't always remember everything I want to say on here. Now, also, too, notice, too, is that you got the Sun opposing Saturn in this event chart, and that could be a clash of authority and ego. And you have, two people in this case. There's really, I believe there were 3 girls in this altercation, but you had the one that got stabbed, and then the other, the assailant that attacked her. You have again, it's the ego versus the authority, somebody wanting to be the boss. Both, and the Sun can have a connection with authority too. Saturn is very authoritative, and you have, this clash of wills in this particular case. So each wanting to show, who's boss, and the Saturn person. And I'm sorry, not this. Well, the Saturn energy, I should say. Not sorry. The Saturn is where, making the adverse aspect to the Sun is where this authority can have, trying to boss somebody, tell somebody what to do, can have an adverse effect on another person's ego. More emphasized when you have a transit like this as opposed to, when it's not happening. I know these kind of things can occur, really any given point in time, regardless of astrological transits, but it could be more accentuated, intensified with something, a transit like this. And you also have another thing that stands out to me is that you have Neptune making an adverse aspect to Mercury. Now, Mercury, granted, it's in its dignity in Virgo. Virgo, Mercury, collectively, people may be more, analytical in their speech and punctilious with details, may even get impatient, with those, there may be more impatience in the air with this transit for people that aren't always, aren't thinking quite as, quickly as they are. But the thing about this too, though, is you have the opposition of Neptune to Mercury, and that could give very, the thinking can be a little more delusional, and and it's also where, things could be misconstrued too, and be more ambiguous when you have, that kind of a transit. So it's really, the thing is, and it's also difficulty sometimes in deciphering or distinguishing fact from fallacy. And maybe when you had the argument ensued over this, whatever this sauce at McDonald's, I'm wondering if, the person, not the person who actually had the sauce, but who got it for herself, but the person who thought it was their, her sauce, but actually wasn't. Did that person convince herself that it really was? And it's just something I wonder about. And also, too, what I notice is that you also have in this chart Neptune is opposing Mars, so that could be, actions, anger, violence. That's almost, that really could be confounding and not really even, understood. You have, this whole thing in astrology out of the way. This was just something which just shows complete, lack of discipline. And what this touches on, in our society, United States, it seems like it's becoming, more and more turbulent and volatile as time progresses. Is it going to get to a point, and I think maybe it should get to a point where people where you need to have the greater security, obviously, in a lot of these places, and also have people that are being checked for weapons. Concealed weapons, weapons they're not supposed to have. My guess is that somebody 16 years old, or maybe anybody, shouldn't be carrying, is not legally supposed to be carrying, like it was a switchblade. I believe it was like 7.5 inches, a pretty good size. I mean, knife. And why are you got these people walking around with these weapons? I know, understand, Washington D.C. A lot of people think, oh, it's such a great area. You got all the congressmen, and it's by near the White House and this and that. But the thing is, I believe Washington D.C. is right up there in the crimes and homicides, and understand the way why people be carrying these things for protection. But if it's not legal, you got to have something where you can try to control these things a little bit more. And if it may get to a point where these people may have to be scrutinized more and actually be, checked when they're going into a place, whether it's a movie theater, whether it's a McDonald's fast food place or what have you. They're going to have some way where they have maybe some detection, or if they can't, afford to have security at all these places, then they got to have maybe some detection system that exists when the person enters the place, and being able to see, detect if something is in there or not, of some kind. I know they have metal. I mean, there's ways to detect things that are metallic, but I'm wondering if there's a device of some kind that can detect things like a gun, or like a pocket knife, concealed weapons. So this is what I'm getting at. And again, I do give my prayers and condolences to the close friends and family members of this victim. This was something that was obviously very tragic, traumatic. It's a situation, these things could be averted, and people out there that have heard about this, and if there's any few people that might be hearing about this the first time through my video or what have you, you try to remember to keep in mind that we gotta, learn how to communicate more and be able to have, peaceful resolutions, reconciliations to things. There's no need, for more violence and killing ourselves. Again, we're supposed to be loving each other, not hurting each other, not resorting to volatile actions toward one another, and that's not what was meant to be on this planet. It's supposed to be, about brotherhood, and being, working as one. Not being adversarial and going against each other, and especially in a way where you're killing another person. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.